A fine morning. It is a Tuesday morning. I am cruising into my vacation, which starts on Thursday, which I am super psyched about. How are you?
Well-earned vacation, but excited to be here for another Nudelberg daily huddle. Excited to own the morning with you guys. And shout out to Amanda for posting about it on LinkedIn this morning in her Huddle t-shirt. It was a great post. She didn't tag us in it. I just happened to see it.
I did not see it, unfortunately, but that's because I was in heavy recovery mode. Jake has taken on the role of training me, and I think he's paying me back for all the years I punished him.
There is definitely some underlying tones.
It was like, let me tell you.
Well, what's good is that, for most trainers that have worked with you, they're getting paid by you. So they got to conform to when you're like, I'm done. They go, all right, fine, you're done. Whereas Jake's going to go, no, you're not done. You got another one.
So let me be clear. I am paying him. I didn't want him to use his time. That's not fair. He's an adult. Sure. And I think his skill set is great. So he is getting paid. I want skin in the game. I want to pay for training. God, that's what we do. I believe in that investment, but I'm 2 sessions in with him and things are different.
Jake may be starting a new business. She make an increase from the huddle, but hey, are you doing personal training? What's going on?
So we called it Get Jaked.
I know, I love it.
Super cool, and so great stuff.
Well, you can't use Body by Jake.
Correct.
Jake is actually a friend of mine.
I know.
The Steinfelds from New York. So Jake and Andy and Peter and
I remember as a kid watching the infomercials and you saying that.
You could do Body by Jake and Jake.
That is correct. I love Get Jaked.
I love Get Jaked is right. So I do want to point out, I hear this a lot. And recently, we talk about being in business together and how great it is and how fun it is. It is not always sunshine and rainbows. There are things that we need to deal with. There are setbacks. It's part of the game plan. And, we've created this time for each other. Shay showed me our strategy session yesterday. Boom. Whiteboard, ideas, conflicts, in a steady, great environment. I must tell you, sir, it was just so much fun.
Issues and ideas, baby. That is, to me, that is what team meetings should be spent on, are issues and ideas. And we had some great ideas yesterday. My favorite question to ask people is, what is your business development strategy? And everybody goes, that's right, silence. So, to really dive into strategy and put together the verticals that we're attacking and how we're attacking them and putting together a team strategy on what we're doing is just awesome. And I'm loving the time together. Good ideas come out of that time together. And then there is some kind of action plan that everybody is responsible for moving forward. So it's great.
Which is just awesome. So, and the feedback I get from Jake is like, man, I really love being around that because that's really where I learn a lot. So today I'm going to call it 2 for Tuesday. We have 2 concepts that we're going to run with. Question to start with and then feedback on it. But I did want to bring up anybody who is, we did that Sunday scary thing, and anybody that, is looking for a way to get better. You get better by action. You just got to do something. And so I want to point out this guy, Calvin. This is my call with Calvin yesterday. Calvin works for Ad Media. Ad Media is the group I spoke to in Las Vegas. He was part of the group that opened up the Las Vegas office. And he came up to me afterwards and he was like, that was so inspiring and so great. Would you do a virtual coffee with me? Because I said, absolutely. Fantastic. He reaches out, he gets on my calendar. Yesterday was that virtual coffee. And he proceeds to tell me his story that was incredibly, the struggles this kid has been through, I wouldn't wish on anybody. But he's
Tumultuous.
What's that?
He said tumultuous.
Yeah, tumultuous. I mean, he just went through a lot of shit. And I said to him, how can I add value to you? And he goes, mentorship. And I wanted to jump through the screen and hug him and go,
Yeah.
just that easy, just that easy. And I said to him, there's some requirements. This is what it's going to take for me to do that. And I said to him, have you read my book yet? Which he has. No. I said, when you come to stuff with me, you're going to have to earn it. And so anyway, I just want to point him out, and I want everybody to look themselves in the mirror. And if you need something, ask for it.
Gotta ask.
Gotta ask. You gotta put the ask in. And the world is an abundant place. There are people who will give it back. It has nothing to do with money or.
It's how I feel about my LinkedIn network. Like, since we've been public about hiring this role, I created a job for it. I've created a couple posts for it. I can't tell you the amount of people that have reached out through text message, through DM, commenting or sharing it through their own channels. And they're not just saying like, hey, here's an opportunity for somebody. They're saying, hey, here's an opportunity with a great team, people we love. And they're, creating a warm introduction to anybody that might be interested in that role. I'm so appreciative for that. But that doesn't happen without asking. It doesn't happen without putting it out there. It doesn't happen without saying it out loud to everybody and being open to what's possible.
What are the chances that 2 responses in a row are the same response? If you never ask, the answer is always no. So just throwing it out there as a reminder, the reason why we get together each morning is to fill our brain with new ideas and new activities and stuff to move us forward. So Shay, wake this shit up. We got two for Tuesday, 2 great concepts. Stay tuned. I want everybody to visualize this for a second. Because we do this every day. There's 50 or 60 of us live that are all together between YouTube and LinkedIn. Can you imagine if we did that physically every day? 50 or 60 people is a big event.
Right.
And we're family, we're sharing this journey every day. It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you, all the people that show up. I think Paula invited somebody, a guy named Brian Schaub, who is new this morning. Welcome, Brian. Dan Colello is here. Great stuff. Ed Dykes is here. We're going to get to break bread.
Yeah, can't wait for dinner with the Dykes
family
fam. And Amanda is here finally. And Amanda, I shouted you out for that post earlier this morning. I loved it. Great picture in the t-shirt and just fantastic stuff.
All right. So I'm going to start out the content part of the show with a question for you, sir. What's the fastest way to change a belief, a mindset, or an action?
The fastest way to change a belief, a mindset, or action is I would say the first thing is to unlearn or recognize what you currently believe. You have to either recognize that you don't know or recognize that what you might know might be wrong, or you have to be open to something new.
So I love that because that's the mental side of what I'm talking about. But I think you need to look at your environment. You need to look at what you're thinking. Who's feeding? Look at Joanne. Interrupt it. You need to change the environment. If you're in a place that's not feeding you, not making you feel good, that means the people. That means the physical location. Just get up and move somewhere else. The greatest part about this new economy is that we can take our office, which is this screen, and move it anywhere we want.
Yep.
So I read an article. It was a wonderful question. It says you are a product of your immediate environment. Look at us yesterday. We changed our environment. We bought a gigantic foldable whiteboard. We put ourselves in a place where, like you even said, you were like giddy. You were like, yeah, I can do this. This is good, you know?
Yeah, good things can happen. I mean, and that to me, so like I saw Jesse Itzler posted about proximity yesterday because he was in a hotel that he kind of launched his career from, where he was talking about being around the right people. That's the way I've always operated. There's a line from Hamilton, and it says, everybody wants to be in the room, or everybody wants to know what happens in the room. That was me early in my career. Like when the staff room door would close, you wanted to be one of the guys that were in the room, because if you were in the room, you got the information, you got to hear what was going on, and you were privy to things that other people weren't. So I think, understanding the environment, or wanting to put yourself in the environment, recognizing the people that you want to be like or learn from, and figuring out a way to get close to them. But that requires doing. Right? Again, like you got to recognize that where you are isn't where you want to be. And then you got to define, where do you want to be? Who are those people? What do they look like? What do they do? What do they sound like? Where are they? And how do I get myself close to them?
So I went through this with Bill Bonbress yesterday. I consume an inordinate amount of information. I'm vacuuming it in, I'm filtering it and cutting it into pieces that I can use. This was an article that I grabbed over the weekend, loved it. I'm so good at it now. I recognize when it hits my plate, okay, this is something good. I'm cutting and pasting the important part. And so this guy, Evan Carmichael, who I really like and watch, he did a thing called Elevate Your Environment. And it gives you a 3-step process to do it. Now, one of the ways I grew in my life was not being the smartest guy in the room and figuring it all out. It was paying attention to the people around me, man. I was like, that works, man. What that guy's doing.
Sounds like it makes sense to me, right?
I like where he is. I think I'm going to do that. So I took this 3-step process, sort of digested it. I'm going to spit it back to you today. Number one is, and I love this, do an energy audit. Think about the people in your life, the channels you subscribe to, the shows you're watching, and any other input that is coming into your life. Write it down, because that's where you can change. Next, score how they make you feel afterwards from a score of 1 to 10. 10 means you feel amazing, full of energy, ready. Score your family, score your friends, your business associate, your clients, score everybody. You're a metric-driven guy. I mean, if you do nothing else in your life and just do an energy audit, right, and get rid of the vampires, as I call them, the energy vampires, you will explode.
Well, then you got to clean house, because then once you recognize that, like, all right, there's bad shows, there's bad audio, there's bad podcasts, there's bad, to me, the feed. Right? As you scroll through your feed, if you are allowing somebody in your world to show up with stuff that doesn't serve you, then you're allowing that person to suck your energy through your feed. Like, there's an easy way to just click 3 buttons and either mute that person's post, or disconnect with them, or remove follow, or remove connection. I mean, any term you want for all of the things that show up, you got to take the action to remove it. And then once you do, there's a void there. Right? Like I think about that with like time management, right? Like when I decide to stop doing something, I just got time back. Now I have to choose to do something with that time. Otherwise, somebody else will decide what happens with it. So it's the same thing as when you remove people, or you remove input into your system, you got to choose to replace it with something that feeds you well, and like, Mel Robbins is, she'll slam you over the head with a baseball bat talking about mental toughness. I mean, she is as consistent gets when it comes to content, but it's all good. And it's all right.
She wasn't always.
Sure.
She was not always. My Mel Robbins story is, when I spoke in Cleveland, she was on the whatever the dais with me.
Right.
I got up early like I normally do. Went down to get coffee. Some lady is in front of me. I don't know who the hell she is,
Right.
And she was as grumpy as could be, man.
Well, that's what's cool about Mel's story is she'll tell you that she was in a place
Right.
that was terrible. She didn't have a morning routine. She didn't do any of the things to put herself in a place to be successful. And now, if you're struggling with that, like if you can't get on the right foot every day, it's a good person to go add to your feed as you subtract somebody that doesn't feed you.
So I am going to be shouting at the hills that everybody should do, and I don't really like should, but everybody can do an energy audit and figure out who's the people that are dragging them through the mud. Let's get to some motivational music because I am very, very bullish on Stevie Nicks. I will see her Friday night kicking off her tour with Billy Joel. Shout out to my boys at SoFi for taking care of me. Give me Stevie Nicks.
People running around loose in the world, ain't got nothing better to do. Make a meal of some bright-eyed kid. You need someone looking after you. I know you really want to tell me goodbye. I know you really want to be your own girl. Baby, you could never look me in the eye. Yeah, you buckle with the weight of the world. Stop dragging my, stop dragging my, stop dragging my heart.
I love it.
Woo!
You're gonna go nuts. It's such a good concert.
Oh, I can't
I
wait.
can't wait to hear what your feedback was.
It's like so jacked up. And that stadium is supposed to be spectacular. Thought number 2, we got 6 minutes to get through it. It was brought up yesterday by Jonathan Aarons. I don't know if he's here this morning because I know he's on a family trip, but he talked about the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And the facts on imposter syndrome are amazing. 82% of people suffer from it.
Yep.
So, people sometimes don't understand what it is. Number one. Number two, if you don't understand it, you can't combat it, but everybody has it. And so novices experience overconfidence due to quick progression. That's the imposter. I think I know it all. And, if you're talking to somebody trying to give them feedback and they go, yeah, I do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
get rid of them fast because they don't. Experts, and this is where, I want your opinion. If you're an expert, there's so much to know. You can't possibly know everything. I know in my bridge to becoming a coach, I knew what I knew, but I was so intimidated by what I didn't think
know.
I knew.
Right.
I didn't have like a curriculum. There's nothing you can ask me that I wouldn't be able to answer. But this imposter syndrome is really, really significant. What is your take on imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome comes from the comparison exercise, which is you are constantly comparing yourself to the person or the thing that you think you're supposed to be. And then you put that person or that thing on a pedestal. You forget that person also has to wake up as early as you do, or you forget that person also had to learn as much as you had to learn. You forget that people had to do the work in order to get to where they are. And if they didn't do the work, they're not worth the salt that you're giving them. So for me, it comes from reminding myself that everybody's a human here. Everybody's granted the same 86,400 seconds in a day. Everybody deals with the mental capacity that everybody deals with. Some people are more talented and gifted in some things, but that doesn't really give them an edge unless they put the work in. And so in order to get over my imposter syndrome, I remind myself of the work I've done. Remind myself of the hours I put in, of the books I've read, of the things I write, of the daily behaviors that I do to say, I earned my seat. I earned the right to do whatever, or the privilege to do whatever it is that I think I'm about to do, whether it's stepping on stage in front of a large group of people, whether it's leading a strategy meeting with a group of people, whatever it is that you start to feel that imposter syndrome, I remind myself that I did the work in order to get there.
So I think that's key. Learn the facts. Everybody's dealing with when they Forbes did an article, Serena Williams, Howard Schwartz, Lady Gaga, the list goes on, predominantly in like very successful women who deal with this. But regardless, understand it's a state. And that's one of the things I love about Tony Robbins is that he says, if you understand the state of your being, you can change the state. You can, so understand it's not going to be forever.
Right.
Learn the facts, discuss it with others. Hey man, I'm feeling kind of low. Like I asked Bill yesterday, I go, who's on your lifeline list or whatever the term I used was from, be a millionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. Your lifeline.
Right. Who you calling?
Your phone a friend.
He goes, what are you talking about? I go, you're going to have some times that you're Sunday scaries. You're going to have imposter syndrome. The mental side of what we are doing every day is difficult. Who are you going to call that just makes you feel good? That goes back to
Rooney.
Yeah. Yes, man. Mike Maroney would be a good guy to call.
You went the wrong way. You went the wrong way with that one. It's got to be Ghostbusters.
Well, no, I mean, come on, bro. You grew up in South Florida. Who are you gonna call? Rooney.
Listen to me. If you ask me, hey, who's the three people on your lifeline? They go, what are you talking about? I go, who are the people that when you don't feel it, you call them up and they change your mood and your environment. That's why these two things are so tied together. Change your environment. If you sit and stew in the fact that you're experiencing imposter syndrome,
if you try to keep
get better by yourself.
Right. If you try to keep it to yourself, it's only going to feed itself more and more. And it's just, like a fire. It starts with a little spark of doubt, and then you feed that doubt over and over and over, and you don't look for any kind of validation internally and externally. That's a bad recipe.
So, hopefully today was a mindset reshift.
Two for Tuesday. Excellent.
Tuesday, two great ideas, two great conversations. You do not want to miss tomorrow, because one of the greatest arts in being in biz dev is to be able to negotiate. And Jake bought a car this weekend, and he got to experience the art of negotiation through me. And he thanked me for it. He goes, Dad, I never really did this. The cars I bought, I did online. They just came. So we actually watched it. And so we're going to talk specifically with Jake about takeaways in the art of negotiation. It should take up the whole show. It'll be great. We'll have great music. We'll have great people. Come on back, folks, for Wisdom Wednesday. Today was a banger crowd. Big time.
We will see you guys tomorrow. Fantastic Wednesday. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down